This is reposted.
So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, Mr. Keller, but one of my mom's favorite people in the entire universe is Anthony Bourdain. Perhaps you've seen Mr. Bourdain on CNN traveling all over the world. He was a famous chef for a long time. I think it's hilarious that he was one of my mom's favorite people because, like, my mom is this 80-plus-year-old widow who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, didn't do heroin, but she loved him from the jump street. We actually had a 70th birthday party, and I fake wrote a letter from him. I said, I wrote Anthony a letter, and he wrote you a happy birthday anyways. She went to hear Mr. Bourdain speak at a bookstore once and waited in line to ask him a question. And her question was, how do you stay so thin? And he looks at my 80-year-old mom and says, it's because I smoke, lady. Today's quote comes from the great Anthony Bourdain, who says, I'm not afraid to look like an idiot. So it seems to me, from a 5,000-foot view, there doesn't seem to be anybody cooler or hipper than Anthony Bourdain. Like, if you see at a party, I still these interviews, everybody's like, oh, Anthony was the best. So I'm trying to figure out what he's saying in that look like an idiot. Like, he traveled the world and was afraid to put himself out there and look foolish in things that he wasn't comfortable with.
Well, I mean, I think the reason he seems so cool, or I think the coolest, quote, coolest people are the ones that aren't afraid to look like an idiot because they have an original idea and they do it. And if you own whatever choice you make, you have this sense of confidence that people are drawn to. So I think that's what it is. I mean, think about the most famous musicians, like what's the Maroon 5 lead singer's name? Adam Levine. Like, he sings very falsetto, and think about when you were in high school, if you wanted to sing like that, that's not going to be the cool thing. But now, because he made a choice and stayed true to who he was cool. And I think that is probably what Anthony Bourdain is talking about.
So it's like, is the idiot thing that, like, we all kind of want to conform to how society wants us to be, and we're sort of afraid to kind of go out and do something that's not in that conforming box?
Yeah, because I don't think people like to be uncomfortable. If you think about any time someone gets coerced into performing, be like, hey, give a speech. Like, if you don't do something 100%, then like it's going to come across weird. It's like, hey, get up and perform. You're like, oh, it's not going to be that good. And you don't try. Like, not trying 100% is going to be worse than not doing it at all. Like, I get that with performing. Like, if you're not fully committed to something, people will be like, man, that's not really what it is. You have to be willing to go for it and do something uncomfortable. And then it might not pay off. You might feel worse, but like, you're not going to get to that point without being afraid, with being afraid.
Well, the other part of that too, right, is if you give it your 100%, you never look back and say, like, wow, if I would have just done it all in, then I'd know for sure. If you go 50%, you're like, I didn't really try hard to begin with.
Yeah, and that's a protection mechanism, being like, well, I didn't really try, so it's fine that I failed. And if you give everything you can and you fail, then it's like you're a failure, and there's no like protective shell to help you out. Do you subscribe to this, or are you afraid to look like an idiot from time to time?
I feel like I mostly am afraid to look like an idiot. I mostly live in the box a little bit. Although I will say, recently I have, because of one of our topics, I've been wearing this weighted vest around my neighborhood, and it looks ridiculous. I have yet to get a jacket big enough to be able. So I walk around my neighborhood with this. I mean, it could be. I think people so slowly back away from me. They think it's like I've strapped a bomb to my chest, or I've got a bulletproof vest on. So I have recently started looking like an idiot, and I'm just trying to embrace looking like an idiot and being okay with it.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up and say, well, what was that? But like, maybe after a while you get more comfortable with it, and you're like, okay, well, this is what it is, and you move forward. So
I don't necessarily always want to look like an idiot, but the other thing about Anthony Bourdain, right? I heard this interview with him recently, and he was a self-proclaimed bad chef. He was not very good as a chef. He was fired multiple times. He only gets fame, and he was a chef. Everybody loved him. He only really gets his break because he started writing magazine articles for a local publication in Manhattan. So you imagine being like the chef of chef, total alpha male thing, and he's like, hey man, I'm doing some writing on the side. And they must have all said, you're an idiot. What are you doing writing? You're a chef. And I feel like that's kind of what we're talking about, doing something that people are like, man, you're crazy.
yeah, and if you're doing something because it's what you want to do, you're probably going to put more effort or more love behind it. I think that's interesting. It's not having to do with this topic, but I think it's interesting that success can be having success can be like a jail or a trap for you. Like had he never been fired from a job, he wouldn't have done this. I mean, Richard Branson's one of the best examples. Had he not dropped out of high school, like would he have started Virgin or all these mega CEOs or people that like didn't make it in their own system, like working for someone else. And so I think that's interesting that success can be something that holds you back from trying something new because it's comfortable.
Well, so here's my question. Does idiotism or idiotness exist in a vacuum? Like tomorrow, if I come in and tell my family, hey, I'm quitting my job and becoming a taxidermist because it's my passion. Like if I'm a single guy, everybody's like, hey, go ahead, do your thing. But if I leave everything and take a job where I put my family at risk, I'm an idiot.
I mean, I think he's simplifying it with I'm not afraid to look like an idiot. I mean, what you're saying, not having a plan financially to support your family might be
Yeah.
stupid. Like he's probably not willing to make a stupid move, but looking like an idiot is like doing something that isn't what was expected of you or against the grain. So it's like, oh, I'm going to try this other thing and make it work out versus doing something stupid. Like I'd look like an idiot jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. So like, right. It's kind of, it's semantics at that point, I think.
The way that this quote hit me today as I was kind of thinking about it is, am I raising robots? Like I want my kids to be able to be like, hey man, I'll try it. And I don't care who looks at me funny. And I definitely have a middle kid who is I definitely afraid to look different. And so today going like, hey, how do I get him out of his comfort zone? So every once in a while he wants to do something and not look comfortable doing it.
Yeah. I guess one more example that I mean, I've said it before, but acting is, I think, the most clear example of this working. Like Heath Ledger playing Joker, like he had to take a leap beyond what other people were willing to do in acting roles. And I think the most memorable acting roles is when you're willing to look silly. Like I think Christian Bale being a cool guy, like wasn't as hard as going through some kind of boundary for Heath Ledger or whatever you want to say. It is. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger looked like a cool guy, but his acting is not necessarily a memorable performance. So I think just look at the people that you respect and emulate and say, why are they that way? Is it because they did what everyone thought they should do, or they made a choice and went with it?
Okay, here's the big existential question then. So the mime down at Fisherman's Wharf, does he look like an idiot?
I mean, maybe he does. But did Mike Rowe look like an idiot doing PBS shows about dirty jobs and that turned into something else? So it's like, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out. That's what I said. Sometimes you make a huge swing and fail, and that hurts really bad because you took a big swing and you were rejected.
Big swing, suckers.
Yeah. Well, you can't take a big swing at Larry because he has a bomb on. But if you want to reach out, you can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm Andrew. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Thanks for stopping by.